So welcome to my kitchen. This is Cooking Today. Hosting for the holidays, sponsored by Petit Jean Meats. Hi, welcome to Cooking Today. I'm so glad that you're here. We are celebrating this season with a new special Friday series called Hosting for the Holidays, sponsored by Petit Jean Meats. And during this holiday special series, I'm going to be showing you some really great recipes for hosting family and friends and little dinner parties or meals and things like that while you have folks in your home. And we're doing some really great foods for that, sponsored by Petit Jean Meats. So we've got some good hams and bacon and great little sausages and some really fun recipes that I think you're going to love. Aren't we so glad it's the holiday season? I really love it. And we host a lot of company at our house. You know, you've heard me say that now for almost a year. And so one of the things that I really like to have on hand in my recipe arsenal is a good, like a hash, a good skillet hash that it's real hearty and earthy and goes a long way and feeds a lot of folks. And so that's what we're gonna make today. We are gonna make a harvest hash that is loaded with sweet potatoes and ham and spinach and these good onions and garlic and red peppers, just beautiful, earthy, wonderful flavors and vegetables. So good and healthy for you. And then we're gonna top it off with a fried egg on top of everybody's bowl. Isn't that delicious? Like a good, soft, runny yolk. So, you know, you break that yolk and it runs down over everything and kind of almost creates a really good creamy sauce. Doesn't that sound so delicious? So, I can't wait to get going on it. Let me tell you what we've got. I have my braiser going. Again, you need a good deep skillet. You may have a cast iron skillet. You probably want something that can get pretty hot because, you know, one of the best parts about hash is getting some color on those vegetables. And you kind of need something that's going to get pretty hot down there on the bottom and can really give us some good caramelization and color, especially on our sweet potatoes. So I have my braiser. It needs to have sides because we're going to load it up. We're going to do a lot of stirring. Don't be surprised if you don't have a couple of, things will kind of plop out over the side. That's kind of part of it. You know, y'all ever go to Silver Dollar City? You know those big skillets that they always make that are so good? We kind of can't help but get them when we go. This is kind of a fancier home version of something like that. It is hard to pass those up, isn't it, when you go? All those smells of those good onions and everything in those big cast irons. That's kind of where we're headed today. This is beautiful. I can't wait for you to see it. So, what I've got going, we need to get going first, is my skillet, and I have a couple of tablespoons of butter in my skillet, and we do want to kind of get that on about medium heat or so, not too low, and I'm going to put in my onions and my garlic, and since we've got it on pretty low, I'm going to go ahead and get my garlic in there. You know, sometimes I tell you to wait, but today we can just kind of get it in there. We should be good to go. So a medium-low heat. We're going to let those start to simmer. I can, start to hear them saute a little bit. And then we're going to add in a red pepper. And this color is just gorgeous in this. And it's a little bit sweet and so good. And so I'm just going to chop these little peppers, cut them into our strings. Like our little thin pieces. And then cut them into some small, like a nice little dice. Let me tell you about our sweet potatoes. We have 3 sweet potatoes that I have poked holes in. And then I baked them just like that, didn't wrap them or anything. I baked them in a 425-degree oven for just about 15 minutes or so that they would get kind of tender on the inside. We're kind of like par baking them so that the oven has done a little bit of the work for us before we stick them in this skillet. If we were to not have baked these and just put those sweet potatoes in the skillet to try to cook down, it would take ages and ages. They're just so firm. So that is really going to start doing some of the work for us. So I have gotten those out of the oven after about 15 minutes, and I'm just letting them sit right here until they can kind of cool off a little bit so we can handle those. When I'm picking my sweet potatoes, especially for this dish, I like to kind of make sure that they're kind of uniform in shape. You know, sweet potatoes can be in all kinds of shapes and sizes and all of that. So this is the best 3 I could find that were kind of the closest to the same shape. And I like the same kind of the measurements, diameter around. Because if I were going to get one that was thicker or fatter than the others, then they're just not going to kind of cook about the same. So you're kind of going for something that looks kind of uniform. The best you can do, anyway. Okay, so I'm going to slide in my red peppers. We're getting a good little flavor base going right here over our medium-low heat. We want those to get tender while they're in there. And then when we come back, we're going to work on our sweet potatoes and start getting the heat. We're going to keep building all this flavor. It's delicious, layer after layer in this good harvest hash. This is Cooking Today.
Cooking Today, sponsored by West Rock Coffee Company.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. If you're just joining us, we are making a harvest hash with these good earthy vegetables. We're gonna do sweet potatoes, we're adding some ham, we're gonna top it with some good spinach, and then an egg. I mean, it's just all these great flavors. We've got some good seasonings that are gonna go in there. Let me tell you what we've got going. We have some garlic and some red pepper, like chopped fresh red pepper, and some onions sauteing in our braiser behind me. And it smells fantastic. I have kind of par-baked some sweet potatoes in the oven first, and then I let them cool just so that I could handle them. And I went ahead and I peeled them, and now I'm just kind of cutting them into about as uniform sized, pieces that I can get, about 1-inch cubes or so. Sweet potatoes, we have already par-baked them, but they're a booger and they take a long time to cook through. And so you really don't want them to be too big because they're just too big a bite, frankly, and it'll just kind of take too long. And so in my opinion, I say, when in doubt, if you're not quite sure, make it a little bit smaller than you think. So I've kind of cut them lengthwise and then cut them again. And I'm just kind of eyeballing these pieces. And because they're not, uniform in size completely, when you buy the potatoes, you're going to get some funny pieces, and that's just fine. So I just peeled those. I have my skillet right now currently over kind of about medium-low because we really just want to have a good little nice tender stir on our little base vegetables over there. And then we're going to add in these cubed sweet potatoes. And I was actually even at the grocery kind of looking around at some other fun things you could throw in here. If you wanted to do butternut squash and mix that in here, do butternut squash. And if you want to add in some carrots or some white potatoes, then do that too. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it's all kind of about the same, and just more flavor and more texture and all of that. It would be fantastic. It's almost a good little pantry clean out as well. If you just have some things you need to kind of get rid of, throw them in there. So here's my cubes. I'm going to scoop these over here and drop them down on top of my sauteed veggies over here. And it's very important that the dish that you use to cook these in, your pan, has a lid, because while we keep this braiser on low with our sweet potatoes, we're going to cover them to let the heat inside the braiser cook them through a little bit more. If we were just to leave them open like they are right now, they're not going to kind of get, cooked through. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give them a little toss. Isn't this easy and fresh? It's just some chopping, but that's not anything big. We do that all the time around here, don't we? Okay. So I've got them a little toss. I'm going to turn my braiser down to another, about a medium low. And look here. I'm going to cover that with the tiniest little crack, And we're gonna let that lid, the heat from, you know, what's happening in there and all that moisture is gonna kind of hit that lid and go back down. We're gonna kind of give that a good little tenderizing sit in our skillet. And in the meantime, we're gonna cut up our ham steak. This is one of my all-time favorite little products that Petit Jean has. It's so easy to use. Gosh, we love ham. I'll be honest, at the holiday season, you know, there's always ham and turkey. There is always ham and turkey at my house. I never pick turkey, ever. I'm always a ham girl. Always, always, always. I absolutely love it. This is so great. It's a ham steak that you can get at your grocery. And look, it's like they've already taken like the whole ham and just cut it into these nice big cubes. Or like slices. It's probably 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch thick or so. And so all I like to do is kind of use my eyes to kind of cube this up. One down the middle and then kind of, you know, half that and then half that and then half that. I've made this a couple of times for my family, and then I took a poll, what everybody kind of liked, how big did they like their ham, and they actually said they kind of liked their ham smaller than their sweet potatoes. So if we have our sweet potatoes already going at, I don't know, about 1-inch cubes or so, we're going to do these even just a little bit smaller than that. And that's just a preference, that's up to you. But I'm going to go ahead and just cube this away, and it is so easy, and it is really, really, really hard to not snack, which I think I'm just gonna, it's ham. I mean, it's ham. You know what it smells like? It's salty and sweet, and it's so good, and it's right in front of me. I can't help it. So, cubing this away, we've got our sweet potatoes covered. Okay, and then I'm gonna take my little scooper here and scoot these over to my tray just to kind of get them out of my way while I do some other things. Isn't this easy? Such good fresh ingredients. Lots of flavor. Okay, so let's see what we're gonna do next. We're gonna take our little break and let our sweet potatoes kind of continue to get soft. That takes about 10 minutes or so. Check those. We're gonna throw in our ham, and then we're gonna make the most beautiful basted fried eggs to go on top. You're gonna love this harvest hash. This is Cooking Today.
Iced tea, sponsored by Lipton.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. If you're just joining us, we're making this beautiful harvest hash. It's sweet potatoes and ham and red peppers and onions and garlic and spinach and all this deliciousness. It's all sauteing and roasting. It smells absolutely fantastic in here. Good, hearty vegetables, loads of flavor, really healthy choice for you, as a matter of fact. So let me tell you, we have sauteed all of our little vegetables that we chopped at the beginning, and then we put our lid on our braiser and allowed that steam to kind of help continue to cook through those cubed sweet potatoes. I have traded sides because we're going to make our eggs. So I've put my braiser over on the other side, and I removed the lid. And at this point, because we used the lid to get them nice and tender on the inside, now we're going to crank our heat up a little bit, do a little drizzle of olive oil, and start to get a little brown on the potatoes. So I'm just going to do a little oil, turn that up, and I'm using a utensil with a flat edge on it, you can see, so that I can kind of really get in here and kind of turn things over and really give things a good scoot around. So I'm going to kind of keep my ears and eyes on that with my higher heat. And we're also, at this point, going to add in our cubed ham. And that's going to get a little fry on it. You know, good old fried ham. Isn't it so good? It makes you think of good breakfast, doesn't it? I love the ham. I've already nibbled, so I'll restrain this time. But I'm going to throw in my cubed ham, my one ham steak, with my heat turned up. And we're going to get a little bit of a fry on the bottom of our sweet potatoes and our ham. Okay? And I'm just going to kind of watch my heat on that. Then, while we kind of let some things take their time and get a little brown, I'm going to go ahead and kind of prep. We're going to pull off some thyme leaves, some fresh thyme. You know, you just take the little fresh sprigs and just kind of run your fingernails down kind of the opposite direction of how they grow, we're going to go away from the end of the stem. And we'll just pull them right off because that's a really good little fresh bite that we garnish at the end. We kind of stir it in. It's really, really good. And I would encourage you on this to use the fresh if you can. It's awful good. Okay? So just a little bit, not a ton, just a few little, I don't know, tablespoon or so. If you love the flavor, go for it. You can do more. And also just for garnish, you know, sometimes when you just want to make a pretty, pretty plate, you could even do just one whole little sprig of that, and it's beautiful. We will also garnish at the very end with our good fresh Parm cheese and then some red pepper flakes. Good flavor, y'all. Okay, I can hear it. Can you hear it? We've kind of gotten a good heat going on here, and we're starting to get some fry. So you're going to want to take your utensil and kind of give them a little flip over so that you can get as many pieces like nice and pretty and browned as possible on the bottom. So now let's make our basted fried eggs. This is my all-time favorite way to make a fried egg, where you get a really good, pretty, sunny side-up yolk. Easy as this. You have a good non-stick skillet, and I turn it on about medium-low heat, and I melt about a tablespoon of butter and then just a big old heaping glob, that's not an official term, but you'll know it when you see it, of coconut oil. And so you get the coconut oil to get that good temperature on there so that they'll fry well, but then the butter gives it such good flavor. Okay? And so you let the two of these mix together in the bottom of your good nonstick skillet. And then of course I have my, you know, my trusty fish turner that I use all the time for everything in the world. Rarely for fish, usually for other things. Okay, so I'm going to give this a good swirl around so that we're nice and coated. And you actually want quite a bit of the butter and the oil in the bottom. You know how usually we'll just do just enough to cover the bottom? You want it to actually be enough that we have enough to baste, that you can take your spoon and put it up on top of the egg. So be sure you have enough. Don't go too little or you're not going to be able to do it. So while this melts, I'm going to get our flip on over here and start to turn those over. Oh, it smells fantastic, y'all. Okay? So we're going to let those keep going. And now I can see that there's a little activity in my fats here. And I'm going to put my egg in there and baste it. When we come back, we're going to have the most beautiful egg, the most beautiful hash. We're just going to put that fried egg in there and then use our spoon to just scoop those, like those fats up on top. It is the most beautiful way to make your egg. It smells really good. I can't wait to show you what it looks like. This is Cooking Today.
Rice, sponsored by Mars.
Hi, welcome back. We are wrapping up this beautiful harvest hash. So let me tell you what we've got. I took the lid off of my braiser and I turned that heat up and I did a little drizzle of olive oil and then started just stirring that over a good kind of higher heat to get color on my potatoes and on my ham. And now all I'm doing is taking, 4 big handfuls of spinach, and I'm just going to pile it right on top. Watch this. And put the lid on while I make that egg. And I'm just turning the heat down on it, and the heat inside there is going to wilt that beautifully. So I've got my coconut oil and my butter in my skillet, and we're going to baste this egg with the butter and the coconut oil that's in the skillet. And all that means is I'm going to let it start to get a little set on the bottom. Do a little salt, a little bit of pepper. Turn that heat up, and then I'm going to tip my pan and then take that good flavor in that bottom of those liquids and then keep, while the egg is cooking, just kind of keep going up and over the egg. Yolk and all. I was doing this the other day and my husband said that this was the way his daddy used to do eggs. So I just kind of keep scooting it around. This is why it's good to have a good nonstick skillet, gang, right there. And look, we're just cooking the egg and the yolk with all that liquid. We're just kind of putting it back up and over. Beautiful. It's going to be nice and tender, and that is what we want. So I'm going to remove my hash. It's hot from the stove. And then my egg looks good. Doesn't that sound good? I'm going to set it right there. And then I've got my, we don't want the spinach to be soft and mushy. We want it to be tender without being too soft. Does that make sense? We don't want it to be mushy. We want it to be nice and heated through. All we're going to do is spin this beautiful hash into the bowl, top it with this egg and some parm and beautiful fresh thyme. Give it a good stir, break that yolk, and eat it up. This is a great holiday breakfast to serve for your company and your family and your friends this season. I hope you will.
Cooking Today, sponsored by West Rock Coffee Company. Kitchenware is provided by Una Mays. Iced tea, sponsored by Lipton. Rice, sponsored by Mars. Hosting for the holidays, sponsored by Petit Jean Meats.